From PRX, it's... This week, writer Edgar Gomez.
That was always my fantasy, that my book would be at the airport, because my mom worked as a barista at Starbucks at the airport.
Author River Selby.
My crew boss on the contract crew, I said, I want to be a hotshot, and he was like, girls can't be hotshots, and that was the moment I decided to do it.
With music from Hunter Noack and our fabulous house band. I'm your announcer, Elena Passarello, and now, the host of Livewire, Luke Burbank.
Thank you so much, Elena Passarello, and thank you all for coming out to the Alberta Rose Theater in beautiful Portland, Oregon. We have an amazing show in store for you this week. First, though, we got to kick things off, like we always do, with the best news we heard all week. All right, here's the thing. The news can seem a little bleak out there in the world, but of course there are good things happening. And what we do in this segment each week is we find those things. We thought this week, though, let's do something special, because Portland has been getting a certain kind of attention nationwide.
Yeah.
That might make someone think there isn't any best news happening in the Rose City, but au contraire. There is best news that is happening here this week, and we found it. And we'd like to report out to the entire nation who's listening in right now just how okay things are going here. This is a lightning round of best news stories coming from right here in Portland, Oregon. What do you think? Elena, what's first item of best news that you have heard about in Portland?
Okay, we all know about the World Naked Bike Ride here in Portland.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a tradition, and might I add, it is always a protest. It's always a reaction to fossil fuels and the fossil fuel industry and sort of promoting alternative modes of transportation that don't use said fossil fuels. Usually because it involves nudity. It happens in the summer, which is probably the best time.
I requested that.
Yeah. But listen, they had to call an emergency naked bike ride.
Yes.
Right? Riding through downtown, past the protesters, past the ICE facility, clothing non-optional. Is that how you would say it? Non-clothing optional. So there were some people on that cold Sunday who had on hats and scarves, and there was a David S. Pumpkins costume, apparently, a Beetlejuice costume, and then they all drove over the Burnside Bridge and parked their bikes and kind of laid down on the ground and kind of stopped traffic for a little bit. All to sort of make protest an act of joy. And nothing says joy like nudity on a 50-degree rainy day. What's yours?
I mean, you know, of course, we're always looking for business development and folks to have successful businesses here in Portland. And right now, there is a company that is just doing actually booming business. It's the Lipman Company. They've been around for about 77 years. It's a great...
That's brand recognition.
Yeah, well, they've been there for 77 years down over on Yamhill. And it's a party supply company. And the reason that their phone has been ringing off the hook is because they are the place in Portland to get your inflatable frog, chicken, or dinosaur costume.
Your gear. Your protest gear.
Yeah. Apparently, it's been very fun for the manager of the store, Robin Adair, because Robin gets to sell people these things and then see them on national television.
Wow.
Hours later, she told the paper, a couple bought Garfield and a banana the other day, and then I saw them on the news. Let's support our local inflatable frog businesses here in Portland. All right, hit me with another best news thing happening right here in much maligned Portland, Oregon.
Luke Burbank, friends in Portland. This is also the season for Squish the Squash.
Oh my gosh.
Which is a 30-year-old tradition at the Portland Zoo that started in the 90s when an award-winning 800-pound pumpkin in Canby was donated to the zoo so that the elephants could squish it. They got gourds, they got squash, they got pumpkins, and they've been doing this forever. And these are, I mean, the size of the elephants' heads. That's happening this week, but there's a new special development because sort of the hot it girl of the Portland Zoo this year is Tula 2, who is an 8-month-old baby elephant.
I know. I mean, they're giving the baby elephant a baby pumpkin to smash.
I mean, the 800-pounders were so big, like there's no way that she could even like get up around it. So she's gonna squish her own squash, and then she's gonna be able to watch her mom wreck shop on one of the Big Mama pumpkins. So.
Why is that so satisfying
Apparently
to watch?
it's really good for the elephants. Like it's a kind of enrichment that, you know, it's fun to watch, but it started as like an animal behaviorist therapy.
Okay, here's a last bit of best news coming out of Portland, Oregon this week. You know, of course, the seasons are changing, and we're getting closer to eventually winter. There's going to be snow. There's going to be ice. And here in Portland, that can be a real problem, which is why the city of Portland has 56 snowplows.
What?
That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that by itself could be the best news. We have prioritized
Yeah, good job.
buying snowplows for this city. Well, they decided, the Portland Board of Transportation decided to have a contest where they would name 5 of these snowplows. One of them is going to be called the Big Snowplowski.
Good. Approved.
That one's going to handle the Southwest Hills. There's going to be one called the Burnside. Like brr. I can't really say that word.
Burnside.
There you go. Thank you. That one is going to handle. That's actually a salt spreader. That's going to handle West Burnside. Then you got a Plowy McPlowface.
Yeah, you have to.
I mean,
It's par for the
at this
course.
point, if you allow people to vote on naming
Yeah.
something, you're going to get a Mick something face. There's also Salt and Thaw. Which, if you're listening somewhere outside of Portland, we have a beloved ice cream operation here called Salt and Straw, which that's a reference to. And then, of course, the 5th and final snowplow is Beverly Clear E.
Yeah.
Right?
Does it plow click a tad street?
It absolutely does. It is going to plow the Beverly Cleary K through 8 school and the neighborhoods that were made famous in the Beverly Cleary
Ramona
books.
Quimby's.
Yes. So the fact that we have 56 snowplows and that as the seasons progress, even if it snows, you can all come to Livewire. You have no excuse because the roads will be Beverly Clearied for you to get here no matter what's going on. That, my friends, that is the best news that I heard all week. All right, you're listening to Livewire. Our first guest this week is the recipient of the American Book Award and a Lambda Literary Award for his first book, which was titled High Risk Homosexual. Edgar Gomez was born and raised in Florida, where his new memoir is set. It's called Alligator Tears. It's been called triumphant, dazzling, and unfailingly stylish. All things that could describe Edgar as well. Here's a conversation we recorded with him live at the Kiln co-working space in Portland, Oregon. Edgar, welcome to Livewire.
Thank you so much for having me.
I found this book to just be so fascinating and human and readable and relatable. I really, really enjoyed it. I wanted to kind of set the scene for people that maybe haven't had a chance to read it yet. You grew up in Orlando. What sort of a kid were you? Were you a shy kid? Were you outgoing? What was your deal?
I was a really shy, nervous, nerdy kid who was always reading. So my family moved around a lot when I was a kid, and books were like this source of stability where no matter where we were, I could at least be following the same story. And so in that way, it gave me like this consistency. But I didn't have a lot of friends because I was like, you know, I love reading.
Your relationship with your mom is a big part of this book, and I'm just curious, can you kind of, it went through phases, it sounds like, in your childhood and in your coming out, and just based on her health and your life, but generally speaking, what was that relationship like for you growing up?
We had a little bit of a complicated relationship where when I was really young, like a lot of other gay kids, she was my best friend. She was my rock. And when I came out to her in high school, I came out to her at Saks Fifth Avenue at the mall when she was there to use a coupon. And I like looked around and I was like, this is kind of a safe space in a way because she's not gonna make a scene around all these rich white ladies. And so I came out to her there and her initial reaction wasn't great. It took some getting used to. And in fact, there were a lot of, not great things that happened. And afterwards, I tried to have conversations with her about them. Like, oh, Mama, remember that time that you got so mad that you tackled my bedroom door and came in and were like, are you a, curse word? Are you a slur? And she would always be like, no, that didn't happen, or you're exaggerating, or like classic immigrant mom, like, you don't know how much I sacrificed for you. So I could never really talk to her about those things. And writing,
She was from Nicaragua?
She's Nicaraguan, yeah. And writing my books, writing my memoirs has been my way to sort of have those conversations with her without her telling me, no, that didn't happen. And after these books came out, I was so nervous. In fact, I didn't tell her that my first book came out till like a year afterwards. It was
She's like walking through the airport. There's like a Hudson News. Her son is on the cover.
Well, that was always my fantasy, that my book would be at the airport. Because my mom worked as a barista at Starbucks at the airport, and I was always in there. She would take me for bring your kid to work day, and so she would like let me loose in the airport, and it was always like this like status symbol, like if I get my book in the airport, that means that I made it.
Yeah.
It hasn't made it there yet.
Well, if enough people hear
day.
this interview,
Yes.
we've got to get Alligator Tears in the
Please.
finer booksellers in the airport in America. I think those places and Costco are where all books are now
Yes.
sold. I mean, very seriously, that's like the two places you want to get your book.
Yeah, buy it in bulk. Yeah, buy a 24-pack.
That's right. You're listening to Livewire from PRX. We're talking to the writer Edgar Gomez, and we have to take a very quick break. But do not go anywhere. When we come back, Edgar will explain how his mom made some very creative financial decisions to get him new teeth as a teen, which completely changed the course of his life. Stick around. More Livewire coming your way in a moment. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm your host, Luke Burbank, here with Elena Passarello. We are listening to a chat that we recorded with the writer Edgar Gomez, talking about his latest book, Alligator Tears. We recorded this at Kiln Co-working Space in Portland, Oregon. Let's get back to it. Your mom also did something incredibly kind, and I want to say smart for you as a kid, which was, and again, I hope it's okay that I'm talking about it, but it's in the book, so I feel like it's fair game. She realized as essentially a single mother, raising a family and trying to make it work out, like for so many Americans, the math wasn't mathing on the finances. And she realized that she was likely to need to declare bankruptcy. Yeah. And this is very, very smart. Realized that if she was gonna declare bankruptcy, she might as well make it worth it and to get your teeth fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because your teeth were not great when you were a little kid, and the most effective way to fix it was eventually to do these veneers that were very expensive. But she brings you in for this process. And actually, there's a part of the book where you talk about that actual, like the sort of procedure and the way it made you feel. Would you mind reading that section?
Sure, yeah. And if you see me tonight, don't look at my teeth, okay?
I'm very close to them, and they look great.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a passage we just arrived at the dental offices so that I can get my veneers put on.
And you're about how old at this time?
I'm in high school. I want to say I am 15 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just got expelled from my last high school. So I'm really depressed.
Yeah. Where you were in like a sort of a cop training program?
Yes.
More or less?
Yeah, but I was kicked out of it, so I think, you know.
You got cred.
Yeah.
You got your cred back.
So this is from Alligator Tears. The day of the procedure, Mom picked me up from school right after she got off work. We arrived at the dentist's office 20 minutes early and parked under a shady tree. While we waited, Mom pulled a thin cardigan out of her purse, buttoned it over the green Starbucks mermaid sewn onto her uniform, then lowered the driver's seat mirror to dab concealer under her eyes and apply a fresh coat of mascara. She must have been exhausted. Ready? She asked. I leapt over the divider and wrapped my arms tightly around her chest. Thank you, I whispered. She kissed the top of my head. You're welcome. Now you can't say I don't love you. Before he began, Dr. Franklin gave Mom and me a lecture on the upkeep. There were hard foods I'd need to avoid for the rest of my life. No apples, no candy, and I shouldn't try opening bottles with my veneers, he winked. I nodded politely, as if any of those things mattered to me. I would have given him my soul. He said the veneers were made to last about 10 years, though with proper care, they could last up to 15, and then I'd have to replace them. That actually gave me pause. It meant there'd come a day when I'd need to come up with $8,000, an impossible sum of money, nearly half what Mom made in an entire year. Yet, I also knew that once I had veneers, money would never be a problem again. They'd cover all my ugly parts, my drug record, my brokenness and brokenness. I brushed my uneasiness away. After asking Mom to wait in the lobby, Dr. Franklin had me lie back on the operating bed and open my mouth. I stared up at the strip of bright white lights on the ceiling as he wrenched out my baby tooth with a pair of pliers, turned on what sounded like a power drill, and proceeded to slowly sand down my teeth, bone particles filling the air. When he was finished, he brought out the tray of off-white veneers his assistant had recommended and cemented them one by one over my newly flattened teeth. The whole process took about 2 hours. It was heaven. Finally, he had me sit back up and placed a mirror in my hand. My heart pounded as I brought it up and pried my lips open. It took a second for what I was looking at to sink in. The veneers didn't merely close the gaps in my teeth, they also made my face fuller, my jaw rounder instead of tense and jammed tight like I usually kept it. I scrutinized my reflection, turning from side to side. I looked like myself. I looked like the real me, not that other shame-filled version of me I'd been living as before. A startled giggle shot out of my mouth. Instinctively, I reached up to cover it with the back of my hand, but I stopped and lowered it halfway. I didn't need to hide ever again. Dr. Franklin summoned Mom from the waiting room, and within minutes, she and half of the office were hovering over me, oohing and eyeing. Amazing work, they patted his back. It's incredible. You're a genius, doctor. Precioso, Mom said, kissing my cheek. Mi niño lindo. A flash went off. I was back against the blank wall for my after picture with Dr. Franklin's assistant. She snatched the Polaroid from the camera and waved it in the air, then fit it into a plastic sleeve inside a binder next to dozens of other clients' before and after photos. It reminded me of a yearbook, all our smiles vulnerable and self-conscious. As I stared at my before photo, a strange pang of grief shot across my chest. I'd been that person my whole life. Whatever I'd felt about myself over the years, they'd kept me alive through everything.
Edgar Gomez reading from Alligator Tears here on Livewire. We are coming to you this week from Kiln here in Portland, Oregon. One of the things that you write about so eloquently in the book, Edgar, is a feeling that if somebody didn't grow up poor, I don't know if they would instinctively know this, but one of the biggest things about growing up poor is embarrassment, constant embarrassment. Mm-hmm. You know, people think it might be food insecurity or safety problems, and it may be those things as well, but there's just this kind of low hum of feeling embarrassed all the time, which really does a number on your brain.
Yeah, no, that was a huge thing, and I always felt like people were looking at me and judging me, you know, by the clothes I was wearing, but especially by my teeth. You know, you could always sense when somebody's like looking at your teeth and all the things that they're thinking. And I think my mom was really smart, where she knew that if I ever wanted to be successful, that I would need to kind of hide that part of myself and fake it till I make it with literally fake teeth. Yeah.
You had a number of different like jobs and money-making opportunities growing up that you write about in the book, starting with like boosting cookies that you were supposed to be selling, but they weren't monitoring the supply, so you were getting some extras that you could then sell and pocket the money. You you sold flip-flops?
Yes, I'm a flip-flop connoisseur.
This was Florida, after all.
This is Florida. I worked at the flip-flop shop at the Florida Mall. Shout out to them. And mostly, you know, it wasn't just a flip-flop shop. It was a luxury flip-flop boutique. We sold the flip-flops that Oprah wears.
Oh.
Yeah. See how everybody was like, oh, that's how I would sell flip-flops.
Yeah. Now, was that totally made up?
No, it was real.
Oh, okay.
And so for the women, it was Oprah. For the men, it was The Rock. These are the ones The Rock wears. Yeah.
Do you feel like being kind of on your grind as a young person has helped you in your literary career?
100%, especially working all these like minimum wage mall gigs. I really do believe that helped my writing, because what that job is all about audience and how to immediately hook somebody coming into the store and convince them to do something. And I mean, that's what I'm doing in my writing. I'm like trying to hook you right away and convince you to keep reading. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something that I've heard you say in other interviews, and I think you mention it in the book in passing, is this idea that for marginalized folks, so often the value, quote unquote, in their stories is their trauma. Mm-hmm. That it's like, oh, you know, you had a hard life, it was traumatic, now let's all just sit around and hear about it. How do you balance the joyfulness of your life with the actual trauma that happened?
You know, I think that's something that I learned from my mom. You know, my mom didn't have the easiest life in Nicaragua. And when she came to the US, you know, once you've experienced, you know, a dictatorship, your brothers being forced to be child soldiers, once you've experienced like trauma like that, like every other problem just feels trivial in comparison. And the way that my mom and my family tell stories, they're always just like, they could be telling the darkest thing, but they're cracking up the entire time. And I think that's something that I learned from them.
Yeah. I think I heard you say in an interview that therapy is expensive, but laughter is free.
And that part,
you know?
Yeah.
Edgar Gomez, thank you for coming on Livewire.
Thank you so much.
That was Edgar Gomez right here on Livewire. Make sure you grab a copy of his book, Alligator Tears, wherever it is that you get your books. Livewire is brought to you by Powell's Books, a Portland institution since 1971. Powell's offers a selection of new and used books in stores and online at powells.com. This is Livewire. I'm Luke Burbank, here with Elena Passarello. Of course, each week on the show, we ask the Livewire listeners a question, and this week, inspired by our chat with Edgar Gomez, we asked the listeners what, Elena?
We wanted to know what job taught them the most.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I feel like you have a few answers to this question yourself.
I sure do. But I'll turn it over to the Livewire listeners. What are they telling you?
Liam said that Liam learned a lot from being a camp counselor. I learned how to unclog toilets, start campfires, and survive on 4 hours of sleep. That sounds like you have to be a multi-hyphenate in order to
Yes, like a quintuple threat. Also, add to the list, delicately telling young people when it's time to start exploring deodorant options.
Yeah, it's a stinky gig, I think.
I feel like you're right at the
Probably.
tip of the spear there about that change happening to folks' bodies.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, what is another life lesson that somebody in our listening audience learned on the job?
Rohan worked as a dishwasher at a diner and says that hot water and loud music can fix almost anything.
Did you ever have a job like that, working in a dish pit?
No, I worked in restaurants, but the closest dish pit, I was in the back of a limited express clothing store, and all I had to do was unbox and steam clothes. And I loved it. Like, I loved it so much more than being on the floor because I just got to be by myself and play whatever music I wanted. I just listened to music all day and steamed, circa 2000s era Buffy the Vampire Slayer tops.
All right, one more thing that has really impacted someone that they learned on the job.
I love this one from Whitney. Whitney says, I worked at Hollywood Video in college and spent a significant amount of my wages on discounted used DVDs. I have sadly learned that this was a terrible investment. When is the last time you played a DVD?
I bought a DVD player like 6 months ago, Elena, because I wanted to watch a specific film called Streetwise, this amazing documentary. And it was only available on DVD. So I had to buy the DVD and then buy the DVD player to play the DVD in. And I did. And it was very satisfying. It felt very old school to me to actually put the disc in and watch it.
I bought one because I'm writing about Elvis movies, and a lot of Elvis movies they're not streamable. So I've gotten to know the DVD menu again and the joy of special features and all that jazz. So Whitney, if you ever want to commiserate about your DVD collection, it sounds like we're here for you.
You know who to talk to. Hey, thank you to everyone who sent in a response to our listener question this week. We appreciate it. You're tuned in to Livewire. Our next guest is a former elite wildland firefighter who is part of a crew known as the Hotshots. That's an experience that's detailed in their new memoir, which is called Hotshot, A Life on Fire. It examines the collision of fire suppression policy and colonization and climate change and their own journey in the dangerous and very male-dominated world of wildland firefighting. This is River Selby, recorded live at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. River, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
I really, really enjoyed this book. And it kind of starts out when you're around 19 years old. And by your own kind of telling in the book, you were sort of struggling at that point. Like, what was going on for you at 19? What did your life kind of look like?
So I'd grown up in a pretty chaotic environment and moved around a lot. And when I left home, I started going to community college and then dropped out just because I wasn't equipped to be able to do that. And started using a lot of drugs. And a friend just suggested to me that maybe I should try wildland firefighting. Just,
Yeah, like you do.
just...
Sure.
She was like, maybe it'll distract you. That's literally what she said.
I mean, I would imagine it could be a distraction.
Yes. So yeah, I went in and they were really excited that I had a driver's license. It was a contract crew.
Okay.
And so they hired me immediately. We did 2 weeks of training, and then the last day we did a field day, and my crew boss later told me that he was very sure I wasn't going to come back after that, but I did.
We should clarify, too, that you are non-binary, but at this time that you write about in the book during your years of wildland firefighting, do I have it right? You identified as female and you went by a different name?
Yeah, I went by the name Anna. So yeah, in the book, in the intro, I talk about how I am non-binary, but I refer to myself with she, her pronouns because that is how I experienced the world. It was the mold I was trying to fit into at the time.
And what was the sort of welcome like for you, I guess, in this very male-dominated world?
So I spent 2 years on the contract crew, and sometimes there would be other women on the contract crews. Mm-hmm. But once I started on the hotshot crew, and a hotshot crew is essentially a crew of 20 people, elite wildland firefighters who do initial attack. Hotshots consistently work in direct contact with fire. So either we're digging fire line, which is like digging a ditch near a fire to prevent the fire from burning. Or we are back burning, which is starting another fire that will burn the fuel before the main fire comes to it and theoretically put out the fire. And I was the only person who wasn't a man on the crew. And they hadn't had a woman on the crew in several years. Our first day of training, the captain made sure to tell everyone in the room that women have smaller lungs than men, so I couldn't be expected to do the same level of work that the men could do. So that was the environment that I was walking into.
Does that make you go, just watch me?
It does. That's literally how I became a hotshot, because my crew boss on the contract crew, I said, I want to be a hotshot. And he was like, girls can't be hotshots. And that was the moment I decided to do it.
This is Livewire Radio. We're talking to River Selby about their book, Hotshot, A Life on Fire. It sounds like a very dangerous job. How actually dangerous is it in your experience, I guess?
So it's quite a dangerous job. For instance, when we're conducting a backburn, say on an active wildfire, about 70% of the crew are people who are just doing the manual labor. And then there are the overhead who have more experience and are making the decisions. And then there are other people on the fire who are not associated with the crew who are also helping to make decisions. So it's a lot of intellectual decision-making happening, logistical decisions, but things can go wrong at any point. I write in my book about a time that we were flown into a fire in the Angeles National Forest, and we often were flown by helicopter because of the rugged terrain. And on the first load of the helicopter, I got off with some of my crew, and we realized that the fire was burning up the ridge. We were dropped off at the top of the ridge, and we were told to dig fire line. But when the helicopter lifted up, it lifted all of these embers up with it.
Oh, my God.
And they all went everywhere, including past us and down the hill. And so we had to run and try and put out all these embers, and also try to dig a fire line so that the approaching fire would stop. And then there were still 4 more loads of people who came in.
Wow.
So with each load, more embers would
More
go.
helicopters.
Yes.
Wow.
In the moment, you're doing the job, you're not thinking about the dangers. But once we had gotten everything contained, and the reason that we could get everything contained was because we were a hotshot crew, and we were very physically fit. But it could have gone very wrong.
Yeah.
And after that happened, it wasn't until then that I realized, like, wow.
You could die from this very, very easily.
Yes.
We're talking to River Selby about their book, Hotshot, A Life on Fire, here on Livewire. This book is also about the environment and also about kind of wildfire theory and suppression. The U.S. Border Patrol made some news up in Washington State recently when they detained a wildland crew and actually arrested a couple of the members of that crew for, I guess, not having their documents. I'm just wondering, as someone who's done this job and been out there and knows how hard it is, like, what do you think the impact of that kind of law intervention could have on crews and on us actually having, the ability to suppress some of these fires?
There has been a wildland firefighter shortage for many, many years. And actually, with the last administration, there had been a lot of headway made, a lot of recruiting that was done, raising pay, et cetera. And then with all the firings that happened, the levels of wildland firefighters dropped way down. And so this was a contract crew, which are crews that are essentially contract themselves out to the federal government, which are really vital right now because we don't have enough federal firefighters. And essentially something like this will scare people and make them not want to do this job. Also, something that happened was that the team that was managing that fire designated that crew as staging rather than actively fighting fire, specifically on that day, so that they could say this crew wasn't actively fighting fire and get around a law that says you cannot detain people who are actively handling an emergency.
as a person who has, you've actually fought these fires, you've also studied them, and you've really studied the land, what would you like to see our public policy be around this so that we can live in something that resembles like harmony with wildfires?
Because we live in such a big country, geographically large country, our way of thinking of tackling issues, especially land issues, is often just, let's put a Band-Aid on this. I think that we need more funding for local agencies and organizations. Indigenous groups who are trying to bring fire back need funding and support. Nonprofits need funding and support. And state agencies need funding and support. And the public needs education as to why fire is so important. And also, lay people can come and use fire and learn how to use fire to help tend the land. And it is a way to reconnect with the land. So I think that there is a lot of potential with fire creating a healthier relationship with our local environments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When did you start to feel like you wanted to transition out of being part of the wildfire fighting community? Because you had a few jobs throughout your time, and into like writing. Were you out there like chopping a fire line and thinking, I can't wait till I can be indoors on a computer? Because that would have been me. It's like when I worked at Gene Johnson Plumbing in high school, I was like, I can't wait till I'm a public radio host. Because this is a lot better. Like, what was that transition like for you? And did you always have this thought about writing? Did you always think that was going to be where you might eventually end up?
So neither of my parents graduated high school. When I was younger, I didn't really think about my future that much. I didn't think that I would live past my young 20s, really. And so when I did, I started thinking about kind of what I wanted to do. But my last year of fire was in 2010 in Alaska. And that year, my mom died at the beginning of the season, and I finished out the season. And of course, I had to take a couple weeks when my mom died. And the feedback I got at the end of the season, even though all of my reviews had been great, was that I hadn't been cheerful enough. And I promise you, I was more cheerful than a lot of the guys I worked with, even with that. So I think that it was a combination of just really being fed up with the double standards I faced, and also just understanding that my life, that I was mortal, and also that I had agency in my life. So I actually started my undergraduate degree when I was 32, and I am about to have my PhD by this summer. So
Congratulations. Well, it's a really great book, River, and it covers so many different things, not just firefighting, but your life, and again, sort of public policy and nature and indigenous culture. There's a lot in this book. It's Hotshot, A Life on Fire. It's written by River Selby. River, thanks for coming on Livewire.
Thank you so much.
That was River Selby, recorded live at the Alberta Rose Theater in Portland, Oregon. Their debut memoir, Hotshot, A Life on Fire, is available right now. Livewire is supported by Literary Arts, which presents the Portland Book Festival, featuring author panels, a book fair, and more, November 8th in downtown Portland. Learn more at pdxbookfest.org. You're listening to Livewire. Our musical guest this week is Hunter Noack. He is a classical pianist, he's a naturalist, and he's also the founder of this thing called In a Landscape, classical music in the wild. And this is what he does. It's really amazing. He travels around with this Steinway piano named Maud that's like over 100 years old. And he brings it out into some of America's most inspiring settings, like mountaintops or deserts or old-growth forests. And then he brings an audience together who listens to his performances through wireless headphones and then sort of wander around the landscape with this music that he's playing as a soundtrack to their outdoor experience. We got to experience one of these amazing concerts at Silver Falls State Park right here in Oregon. This is our chat, which we started off with, talking to Hunter Noack. Hunter Noack, welcome to Livewire.
Wow, thank you.
In a landscape, that is a John Cage reference.
It is.
And I think most people, if they know the name John Cage, or if they have my level of sophistication, their awareness is that's the guy that did the song that didn't have any music in it.
That's right. That's 4 minutes and 33 seconds written for the piano. And I actually sometimes do perform that because it works very well in the outdoors because we can all take our headphones off and just listen to the landscape.
That's maybe what he's known for by people that haven't really experienced a lot of his work, but obviously he's someone who's really important to you. What is it about his work that speaks to you?
Well, I appreciate what John Cage and his contemporaries, that whole sort of school of composers, were doing when they were trying to challenge us to listen to different sounds and noises as music, things that weren't just coming out of the instrument. But, John Cage would have some silverware and throw it in a bathtub up on stage, and it would cause us to ask the question, is that music? And when we're outside of a concert hall where we don't even have the illusion of control, there are a lot more sounds that end up as part of the show. Sometimes it's something that we think of as pleasant, like a bird song. Other times it's, a helicopter or a train going by. In a concert hall, there's so much anxiety and tightness around extra sounds. And what I love about being in the outdoors is that everybody's just sort of inherently a little bit more relaxed. And so
Edibles are legal here in Oregon.
That's right.
So that helps.
I wish actually more people, never mind. This in a landscape concert is a great and safe experience for, bringing your tinctures and your elixirs and whatever else you want. But what I really wanted to say is that what I hope that people do is try and embrace all of the sounds of the landscape as a part of the show, as a part of the music. And that just sort of puts people in a state of mind, even if there is somebody's sort of near the piano with a bag of chips or there's a child making noise. We just sort of we embrace that as a part of the experience, a part of the landscape. Like we are actually here. Some of us are actually eating, and there are also kids here, and that's wonderful.
As you're introducing a song, you're also encouraging people pretty strongly by the end of the concert to leave the concert, at least temporarily. Like, it seems like you really like people to be, because everyone's wearing headphones. You can't see this on the radio, but everybody here has these headphones on so they can hear the music even if they're wandering off into the woods or over by the waterfalls. Why is that part so important to you, that people are kind of in movement while they're experiencing this?
We're accustomed to sitting down and looking at the performer. And so it takes a little bit of extra nudging to get people to leave their seat and go wander around because it's not normal. One thing I love, especially in places where I can, see a distance, is I love seeing people out, looking up at a tree or staring at a blade of grass or watching the waterfalls. To me, I feel, because I know that, with their headphones on, the microphones are right next to me. So I feel like I can whisper right into their ear and feel quite connected to them, even if they're, a half a mile away from me. And that creates this like very special feeling where we're all kind of witnessing the world around us constantly change. But I know that, I know that somebody out in the audience might be having a very personal and intimate experience with something in the landscape or with another person. And I get to be a part of that without necessarily being the center of it.
You're listening to Live Wire. We've got to take a very quick break, but stay where you are. When we return, we're actually going to hear some music from Hunter Noack, performed live in Silver Falls State Park in front of a crowd of roaming, headphone-wearing Oregonians, including me. More Live Wire coming up in a minute. Welcome back to Livewire from PRX. I'm Luke Burbank here with Elena Passarello. Okay, before we get to this week's musical performance by Hunter Noack, a little preview of next week's show. We're going to be talking to the Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter, columnist, and author, Timothy Egan. His latest book is A Fever in the Heartland, which Kirkus calls riveting history, excellently rendered. We're also going to be talking to poet and rapper Dessa, who shared some poems from her latest collection, and then we tried to return the favor and share an AI-generated poem that we made about her that went about how you would imagine. You don't want to miss next week's episode of Livewire. In the meantime, let's get back to our musical artist this week. Before the break, we were talking to Hunter Noack about how he developed his outdoor classical music concert series called In a Landscape. So let's hear a performance from him now. This is Hunter and his piano Mod at Silver Falls State Park in Oregon, recorded this summer back in August. Well, could we hear a song?
Absolutely. The next piece is a great one for wandering about or closing your eyes. It was written over 300 years ago in 1723 by Rosanna Scalfi Marcello. She was a singer, started out as a singer on the gondolas of Venice, and then a nobleman by the